feel something touch me. It's Shrek. I'm so happy. He whispers in my ear.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've talked about shipping before. Now, in this case, not shipping comics, but, fan shipping of characters. And this is where, the fan community decides that they want two characters to hook up or whatever. And so they match them up and, it's like fantasy booking, fantasy football for relationships in comics, which sounds kind of pathetic, actually, when you put it that way. But this is nothing new. This is kind of a spinoff of the will they, won't they kind of behavior. So way back when they were kind of very, very early teasing Cyclops and Jean Grey. And as I mentioned, I think in another video, I've been reading the original X-Men, back the Stan Lee, the original X-Men, back before they were plant people and drug dealers. And that basically, they very, very early on, Jean Grey comes in and, all the boys in the mansion are all horny for her, including Professor X. And then Cyclops is, but he's the one who won't say anything. And then they kind of do and if you read the letters pages of a bunch of these issues, a bunch of the fans start getting into the kind of, will they, won't they, kind of like, oh, I would like to see Cyclops with Jean Grey. And it's very cute. It's like early shipping. People are like, I think those two characters should go together. All right. By the way, and I should do it in a separate video and probably will. The Iceman is gay. When Bendis kind of revealed that, and then a bunch of the people who were like, you're bigots for saying he wasn't gay all along. Even though he'd been in, multiple relationships and some quite serious, like in X Factor and other places. And people would point to one panel in X-Men, I think #1. It was either #1 or #2. Pretty sure it was X-Men #1. Where all the other guys are super horny for Jean Grey. She's like, hey, we've got a girl join the school. And like Beast's like, oh my God, I've got a huge erection. And Angel's like, I'm gonna, no, I'm just kidding. But the X-Men are all like, wow, what a girl! Look at her. Wow, look at her fill out that sweater. Man, it must be cold because I can see nips. No, they didn't go that far. But anyway, all the guys are super horny, and Iceman is kind of in the background going, girl, who cares? And people use that panel to point to, see, the signs are there all along. He's always been gay. That one panel. However, if you turn to the pages, two pages later, you have Iceman like, oh man, what a sweet girl. Like it's for the next 20 issues, and then further for sure. Iceman is 100% heterosexual. But he's young. They're writing him like he's 14, because I think he probably is. I don't know what age, but they indicate he's not old enough to drive in the early part of the X-Men, and he's every other panel in the entire comic is him being into girls. Not every panel, but when he's talking about girls, when he's in this situation. And they have several where the other X-Men have kind of gone, taken a cold shower, rubbed one out, done whatever they're going to do, and Bobby is still horny. This is the most disingenuous horseshit, is putting that one panel up and saying, see, this is an indicator. No, it's an indicator that Stan Lee was trying to write, or Jack Kirby, whoever's writing a comic at that point, was trying to write Bobby as, a kid, basically. Like, girls are gross. But then you watch him, in effect, go through puberty and get super horny for girls. I mean, maybe you could get into a whole argument about, no, that was all, he was just hiding it. But anyway, all right, we'll do a video on that, because it is, I do hate these moments where people try and revise history based on a tiny little snippet of information. But anyway, whatever. This mail goes, Dear Perch, I have a long-held disdain for the whole idea of Poison Ivy Harley Quinn being a loving couple, because it felt like something forced only to satisfy the voices on Twitter without respect to the characters. Well, character, because I can believe Harley being into Ivy, but Ivy as a character is one that is not meant to be in a meaningful relationship with either sex. Poison Ivy is a femme fatale who uses men and women to her advantage, discarding them when she has no use for them. Ivy should be using Harley to gain access to all the Joker's former hideouts and other information she would be privy to. I agree, by the way. In fact, I think that, the general consensus for Poison Ivy, like you said, was either that she was asexual or she would wind up with, Swamp Thing at some point, or basically kind of merge with the planet. And I do find the Harley Ivy pairing to be, basically internet fanfic or it's fan service to Twitter. That is what it feels like. But the mail continues. Tim Drake was only turned bi because there had been a so-called queer-coded relationship between him and Connor. The fans on the internet, whose money really don't matter from the sales, claim there is. Shipping is just pairing two characters into a relationship without any real regard to history just because they would look cute together. So if people ship Ted Bundy and Carol Danvers, it's considered an actual fandom ship? What about Shuri and Dr. Phil? Is Dr. Phil anti-vax as well? Or Jeffrey Dahmer and John Kent? John is about 18, right? That's a weird one. Anyway, Nick Spencer making D-Man gay didn't feel weird because A, he'd never had any real love interests that needed to be retconned. B, the one example that could be given as queer coding actually makes sense in hindsight. C, because we now have more reasons to call him Dickman, even though D-Man always seemed like a really nice guy in Grindelwald's Run. And D, it's D-Man and nobody really cares about him anyway. I get the whole shipping portion is just part of the enjoyment of the franchises, but it makes the fan base seem so needy. It's like all the crazy parts of Tumblr or Twitter converge into one rabid force. While all I want is for any romance in comic or fiction in general to not feel so forced. I don't need to read comics with the pre-established characters that read like the author's trying to manifest their Tumblr page into actual canon. Totally. All right, that's the end of the mail. Yeah, I think, again, fan fiction and shipping is not new, but there is a dare aspect to it. And I think J.K. Rowling, who is, the worst person on the planet, according to Twitter, I feel like I have to add that disclaimer because a bunch of people come in going, anyway, sarcasm is not picked up in videos, apparently, when you record in a car. So she noted at one point that a bunch of people were shipping Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter. That, the reason why Malfoy hated Potter so much and why they had such a rivalry couldn't be because it was, a book written for kids where, you have you have friends and an arch rival and, there's jealousy and other kind of really basic concepts being explored there. It must be because Draco secretly wants to fuck Harry. It has to be because of that. Because as we know, every single gay relationship starts with one of the characters trying to murder the other. That's how it works. I've got a good friend who's gay. He's in a long-term relationship. I think they're going to work toward getting married here in a year or two. And in his story, it began with the guy he was dating wanting to kill him, and like dropping a giant oversized piano on his head when he walked underneath a building. That's how all gay relationships work. They try and kill each other and then they hook up. That's what we're meant to believe. Anyway, that is also sarcasm. But Rowling is like, this is not healthy, and people can do whatever they want, basically. But the people who are doing this are intentionally ignoring kind of big parts of the book and the characterization. So I don't know. She basically commented that it's hard to really express, people who do this as fans. They claim to be, super into the book and into the lore, and yet they're coming up with these, romance scenarios that actually don't make any sense, that don't fit the actual characters in the books that the characters are in. So it's really kind of, people can do whatever they want, of course, on the internet, go nuts, but it doesn't, it completely is outside of what goes on in the actual title. I think comics are the same. I do think the Poison Ivy Harley Quinn ship was absolutely started from people on Tumblr who were into it and would draw the two characters. I mean, what's funny is my suspicion that a lot of these relationships, particularly the lesbian relationships, began by some horny dude that just wanted to see two girls make out. And that person drew some pictures, or got some pictures done, usually in a manga style, of the two characters getting naked and scissoring. And then those pictures went up, and the intent was not to promote LGBTQ rights in any way whatsoever. It was absolutely just porn. And then that somehow people got a hold of that and were like, oh yeah, this would be a good thing. See, they're it's canon. They're gay now. I have this. I'm not making this point well, but I have this suspicion that a decent amount of these fanfic kind of shipped relationships originated from basically Tumblr porn, and then somehow that morphed into this is promoting LGBTQ rights. That's my belief. In comics, I'm not saying in real life and anything. As we know, as has been already established, the origin to this stuff is that the people want to kill each other. No. But I think I still believe that's the case, because what's funny is there were a bunch. I mean, like, if you not to wander completely down the Axel Braun kind of territory, there's a bunch of kind of porn parody films that have come out on comics. And, many of them have a girl scene in them, or it's pretty common staple of porn. And those scenes are not, they're not being done to promote LGBTQ themes. They're being done because, so horny guys can look at it. That's why it's occurring. And somehow that made its way. We went from there to, Harley Ivy is a stand for pride. I mean, for that matter, half the comics involve the two of them just get naked, and Harley talking about how she wants to have some lunch, and by that she means Ivy. I don't know. It's all very strange. I don't know. Okay, we're way off track here. So basically, yes, I think shipping is. I mean, it can be easily ignored. So, I mean, you can just choose not to deal with it and move on, and that's fine. But it is not healthy when the shipping gets so aggressive and antagonistic that people start demanding that their fanfic basically gets reflected in the comics. And it's funny because there's a big kind of outcry or dislike for, they say, people who demand that the comics go back to what they were like in the 80s, or these are people who are stuck in the past, and so they're demanding comics adhere and be a certain thing, and how annoying that is. And yeah, it's annoying, sure. It is the exact same as the people who demand that because they read a panel of Iceman that indicated that Bobby didn't have the same kind of boner that Hank McCoy had, that he must be gay. I've seen people recently push that in Grant Morrison's X-Men run, the Beast, Hank McCoy, tells Trish that I think I might be gay. And then a couple issues later, I mean, it's revealed that he was just fucking with her because he was upset or bitter or whatever, but he was just trying to mess with her. Like, it's in the comic. This is all canon. People have forgotten about that second part and are basically saying, hey, it is canon that he is gay, or at least bi-curious and all this kind of stuff. And, so it's like, you're not even reading the comics at this point. Anyway, thank you very much for the mail, and thanks for listening.